Hey everyone, so today we are going to be making this game controller. I have one that looks like this where I've used some velvet plush yarn, but I also have one that looks like this, which is just your regular cotton yarn as well. So I'm going to show you and take you through both of those depending on what you want to do. So these are the materials you will need. For the plush yarn, you are going to need a 4mm hook or whatever hook that is, what works with your plush yarn, as well as a 1.9mm hook for those smaller details. And if you're making the smaller one, you'll just need a 3mm hook. I hope you can see that. As well as the 1.9mm hook for the smaller details as well. So this one for the actual body and then this one for the smaller details. So this is consistent with both of those. Of course, you're going to need a pair of cutters, a tapestry, leather, or sewing needle, something that's small and that can weave through those stitch spaces. Highly recommended, this time I usually say optional, but highly recommended are to have some pins so you can pin all of those smaller details together before sewing. Now this is the plush yarn that I use. It's kind of this velvet plush and it works very well with a 4 or a 4.5mm hook. And of course, you will also need your 4-ply cotton yarn. You will be using the red one if you're using 4-ply cotton yarn. And then for all of the remaining sections, you'll need like cyan, purple, yellow, lime green, white, and black. But of course, you can change these up however you'd like to as well. But your main color is the red, or if you want to change that color as well, you can do that too. And then finally, you also need some fiber filling to fill up your little game controller. And that seems to be it. So let's get straight into it. Alright, so let's start off with our red colored yarn or whatever yarn color you'd like to work with at this point. Then we are going to make a magic ring. And again, for those of you who don't know, go check out my beginner tutorial playlist for crochet. You'll be able to learn all of these techniques very easily. And then come back and complete any one of my tutorial videos. Alright, so we're going to work inside this magic ring 6 single crochet stitches. Here's number 2. Number 3. Now I don't expect you to fully see these stitches, but you can get the idea. So here's number 4, number 5 single crochet stitch, and the last one, number 6. All right, we've made 6 single crochet stitches inside this magic ring. We will pull this yarn to close that magic ring gap. Now with velvet yarn, you don't want to pull too tightly because you will risk breaking or snapping your yarn. But if you have cotton, feel free to pull that nice and tight. From here, we are going to crochet in a spiral. So we're not working in rounds, completing them with a slip stitch and chain one, just straight spiral. So get your stitch markers at the ready. You can also use like a little bit of black thread or some cotton yarn as part of your stitch marker as well if you'd like to do that. So before I come into this very first single crochet stitch, if you have a stitch marker or something, feel free to start using that straight away. We are going to directly crochet in a spiral. So here we go. We've got the first single crochet stitch followed by, in the same space, making the second single crochet stitch. So that's number 1. Then in the next stitch space, we work another increase, 1 and 2. So 2 single crochet stitches inside the same stitch space is called an increase. So we've got 2 increases so far. We need another 4 to go. Here's number 3 increase, number 4 increase, number 5 increase, 1 and 2, and finally our final 6th increase, 1 and number 2, just like that. So we've got 12 stitches now in the round. Feel free to use a stitch marker to keep an eye on all of these stitch spaces. Now from here you are going to crochet 3 rounds. So the next 3 rounds, rounds 3, 4, and 5, all with just single crochet stitches, of which there are 12 in total. So you're just continuing around 1, 2, 3, and this is where it's helpful to have a stitch marker at this point. Number 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, make sure you're not working in the same stitch space, 9, 10, 11, and number 12. So you're going to just basically repeat that another 2 rounds in total, rounds 4 and 5, and then we'll come back together. And here we are on that 5th round, 12th stitch here, and all we're going to do is pull the yarn up. So you don't chain anything, you just pull the yarn up Now you don't need that much yarn, but maybe like a 5 centimeter tail, because we can weave this in as we go. So chop that off for the very first part 1 that we've done. Don't unravel this. Remember, we haven't tightened this down or anything like that. We've just pulled it straight out. We haven't chained anything. And here is the first piece. Now, all I want you to do is repeat exactly what you've done here, but this time do not cut the yarn. And here is the second piece right here, 12 stitch on our 5th round. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And so from here, we're not cutting the yarn. Remember, we're not cutting the yarn. We are directly going to chain 6. And with this very first chain, so here's the very first chain over here, you want to, if you can, somehow get a stitch marker or just mark this with something. Please do so that you remember that stitch space. I'm not sure what I'm going to mark mine with. I ended up marking mine with a little bit of thread, so I've put it in this first chain here. Then we're going to chain, remember 6 in total, so we've already done 1. Here's the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, and number 6. So this is the 6th one over here. If you can mark number 6 as well, that would be fantastic. And there we go. I've marked the 6th chain as well, and I didn't have stitch markers, so I had to get a little bit creative there. But in any case, that's what we've done. And now we want to attach it. We need to attach we need to start crocheting basically and attach to this piece over here. So I'm going to start maybe 2 rounds before our final 12 stitch over here. So not 2 rounds, 2 stitch spaces back. 1, 2, and here's the 12th. So I'm going to enter my hook here. I'm going to grab my yarn, and I need to continue as though, and let's just put this in properly so that I'm in the right direction. So right here, and here we're going to begin by making a single crochet stitch. So you can see, now this is why you have to be careful. This 6th loop right here can be tricky to get into, so you do need to be mindful of that. All right, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We've marked them. Now we've continued with our first single crochet stitch right here, and we're going to continue up to 12. This is the next round, by the way. We've now started our next round. 1, here's the 2nd stitch in the next round. We've got this one right here. This is number 3. Then we are not coming here because that was this stitch, our last stitch here. Instead, we're coming here, and we're going to weave this yarn tail where we cut it off before in as we go. So this is number 4, number 5. Pull this yarn tail, keep it woven in. Number 6, number 7. Okay, that should be enough to weave this in. Number 8, number 9. Number 10, and don't keep these stitches too loose either, but not too tight too. 11, and finally number 12. There you go. And that was our first stitch. Well, this one over here. This is our first loop, remember? So we're actually coming into here now, our very first loop where we have marked it with our black. So here we go. This is the first single crochet stitch on that loop, and we're going to continue now. Here's the 2nd. This is why it's so good to mark. Number 3, number 4, number 5, and finally in this little space right here where we've marked it, number 6. Just like that. All right, and now we need to continue on. So here's our first stitch space, number 1, and remember there's 12. Number 2, and yes, there is a little bit of a space here, so you know what, you could either leave it like that, or so we've crocheted 2. I'm going to go back to 1, 2, just as if we hadn't started yet on our round circle. So if there was a little bit of a gap there, what I would suggest is come into this space that you wouldn't normally go into because we've got a stitch here, and go just into the front loop, or the front and back if it makes it easier. I prefer just the front. If you can get into just the front, please do so. There's my front loop, and I'm going to come right here into the next stitch space, which is technically my first, and still come into the front loop, and we're going to now pull the yarn through 2 of those front loops and finish off that stitch. Technically we made an invisible decrease, but we incorporated a stitch that we weren't going to go into. So now we've kind of closed that gap and we're starting with that first stitch. So that's number 1, and continuing on now 2, there should be 12 in total for this circle. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, pull me some yarn, here's number 11, and 12 stitch right here. Okay, so we still have 6 single crochet stitches left, and we're going to start in the back side this time over here. So this is where our mark is. Here's number 1. Then we've got another 5 to go. Number 2, number 3, 4, here's number 5 over here, and finally in our mark space, this is number 6. Wonderful. Take out these stitch markers because we don't need them anymore. We got that down pat. Now we do have a little bit of a space here. Now either you can go back and do that same little invisible decrease that we showed over here, or you can just kind of weave over the top of this later. Completely up to you how you want to do that. I didn't want to introduce all of these things at once to you because it could be a little bit confusing. All right, so now we're up to the next round. This is round number 7. And round number 7, we now have 36 single crochet stitches, or 36 stitches in every round now from here on out. So this is our first stitch space of the next round, and I want you to mark that if you can. And there we go, we've marked that first stitch of the round, and now we're coming to number 2. So here's number 2, 3, 4, and you might think this is super simple, but I want to teach you one thing. So this is number 5, and I'm just going to teach you how to keep these stitches as straight as possible. So in order to keep the single crochet stitches as straight as possible, you pull up a loop and you try and keep this loop a little bit shorter than this one, so you're kind of pulling that way. And then as you pull the yarn through those 2 loops in the hook, keep it as vertical as possible in line with your piece. So see how my hook is like super straight like that? That's what you need to do. So you're pulling up and then really twisting that hook upright so that you're keeping it straight. And so it stops you from pulling the stitches that way and keeping that spiral and diagonal sort of lining of these stitches to kind of pull to the right side if you're a right-handed crocheter. So once again, we've got the 2 loops on the hook. Try and keep this one a little bit smaller than this one, but if you can't, that's okay. The main point is to pull this as far to this side as you possibly can, and that is just basically that technique. All right, I want you to continue around round number 7. You've got 36 stitches. Make sure you're counting them. Make sure you have 36. And there we go. Round 7 is now complete. Now for the next lot of rounds, and I've written them down here how many, you're going to continue to work in your spiral and crochet 36 single crochet stitches in every round. So look at the bottom here. This will tell you how many rounds, and I want you to do exactly that. And we have completed up to round number 14 right here. Round number 14 of 36 single crochet stitches. That doesn't mean 14 rounds. I'm just up to round number 14, and I have done and completed those 36 single crochet stitches from round 7 to 14. Okay, so for this next round, we are going to make this a decrease round. And there'll actually be 9 decreases in total. And we're going to start like this. Starting the first chain, we've been keeping an eye on these chains. These first stitches of each round. So here I am starting off round number 15 with a single crochet stitch, number 1. We're going to work a second single crochet stitch, just like that. So now we've made 2 single crochet stitches. And here is where we complete our decrease, but it's called an invisible decrease. And this is because this is how you do it. You have your hook come through the front loop first of the first next stitch space, and then directly into the front loop of the very next stitch space as well. So now we've got 2 front loops here. 2 front loops, and we pull the yarn through 2 front loops, leaving us with 2 loops on the hook, and then we'll pull this through those 2 loops on the hook. And there we go. So that was our invisible decrease. We've got 2 single crochet stitches plus an invisible decrease. You are going to repeat this pattern, 2 single crochet, invisible decrease, 9 times in total, and at the end of this round you will have 27 stitches. So this is round 15. You'll have 27 stitches at the end of the round, completing 2 single crochet stitches first, 1, 2, followed by an invisible decrease, front loop again, pull the yarn through those 2, and pull the yarn through those 2 loops on the hook. So we've just completed that pattern now twice. You'll have it another 7 times until you complete round number 15. And round number 16 is the following. So we just finished round number 15 there. Round number 16 is going to be a single crochet stitch followed by an invisible decrease. So last time we had 2 single crochet stitches, then the invisible decrease. This time we just have the 1 followed by invisible decrease. And you're going to repeat that again 9 times in total. 1 invisible decrease. That's the second time that we've done that there. And at the end of this round number 16, you will have 18 stitches in the round. Okay, so we've just finished round number 16. I'm going to pull this up just because we only have one more round to go where we're making 9 decreases, but we're not going to do that just yet. So first of all, you can start pulling this out. Pull out your little yarn tail or your stitch marker if you had one as well. Now I want to fix up this little section at the bottom. This is where we didn't make that invisible decrease, but we did over here, so that we shouldn't have to worry about this one. But let us just fix this up right here. Now I've cut myself about a 30cm piece of a yarn tail. Now this is never going to be exactly perfect, but we can try our very best. So I'm just going to insert anywhere. It doesn't really matter where at this point. You can also try and do this when the stuffing is already inside, but I just want to do it when it's not, so I keep these stitches nice and tight. So I'm pulling this through and I'll leave a little bit of a yarn tail. I'm coming just a little bit around this section first. I'm going to come down over here. I'm keeping it in line with the diagonal of these stitches, so kind of just coming across there like that. And then we're going to feed it through this section here where I'm going to come across the diagonal over here. So you can see I'm kind of just working my way towards where the little gap is. So you can see this one looks good. And now I need to connect this over. I don't want to keep it straight like horizontal. I want to keep it in the diagonal form. And we're just going to come further out on top, probably like even, you could even come here first, and then I'll come over here. So we're just always keeping those diagonal stitches as much as we can. Sometimes the diagonal is a little bit longer than we'd hope for, but still keeping the diagonal is going to help us out tremendously. Don't keep these stitches too long either. So for this one, I need a diagonal, so I'm going to come over here. Okay, and then I'll work back over here just so I can fully secure this in place. So there is the diagonal stitch over here, and then we'll do one more diagonal over here, and perhaps come over here and do another diagonal just over there to keep it all as secure as possible. Now if you did want to do the exact same thing over here in case there was a little bit of a gap, you could very much do that too. The main point here that I want to come across to you, sorry for the noise, is to keep these diagonal. Don't have them as straight vertical or horizontal stitches. They will be very visible, and we definitely do not want that. So here I'm coming for a diagonal here, and then we'll keep that consistency with the diagonal, and we'll also come over here, and we can also come out here just to secure it even more. So coming out here, diagonal done, it's looking wonderful. And then we'll just come over here, keep that nice and consistent, and we'll do one more coming from over here because I just noticed a little bit more of a spacing here where our fiber filling can come out of if we're not careful. So I'm just coming across here as well. And then I'll just work up here. We've got that all nice and tight. You can't even see where we have gone simply because we've kept those diagonal stitches. You can see here's the 1 stitch space, right? And then you've got this sort of diagonal that comes across it. That's what we're trying to keep consistent. You don't want to go straight up. You don't want to go straight across. You're just coming across that diagonal. You don't want to quite come this way in this diagonal, just because this diagonal comes underneath this one. I hope that makes sense to you, but that's exactly what we're trying to do anyway. So I could either come back through that same space to get to over here, or I can just keep the diagonal. And I'm just going to do the diagonal to keep it even more secure, just because it makes really no difference if I made that diagonal or not. I just don't want to pull that stitch too tight either, just enough to where it settles on top. Beautiful. Alright, now with these two yarn tail ends, of course, I'm sure you are aware we do need to secure it. So we're going to tie one knot, and don't tie that one too tight, just enough. And then for the second one, you want this a lot tighter. And just be careful as you're pulling your either cotton yarn. You should be fine with cotton yarn, but if it's velvet yarn or a different type of yarn that's easily breakable, just be careful with that. And then we'll chop off a little bit and weave these yarn tails back into the body. Later on, we're going to weave it back in once we have the stuffing. So let's leave it open for now, not risk anything coming undone. We'll leave it for now right here, just cut a little bit of excess, and once we fill this up with fiber filling, we'll then weave this back inside through that fiber filling just to secure it even more. You can see how secure we're trying to be. All right, let us fill up with fiber filling at this exact point. And as you are filling this up, you want to do it in small layers at a time, especially so you can get this bottom part. Now, you don't want to fill it up where it's overstuffed, and you don't want to fill it up where it's too lightly stuffed as well. So just find that interim, that in between. If you need to condense this fiber filling, kind of do it evenly. So we started here, we're going to work over here, and just use a pair of cutters or something to really condense that fiber filling and to push it in if your fingers are not doing the trick. So continue all the way, small layers, until you've filled up the entire little gaming console. Alright, so we have packed this quite full, and it's enough for me. Even though it seems quite thick, it will end up sort of squishing together. And the good news is it's not coming through the seam, so I know I haven't overstuffed it. And down here, look, because of our sewing, and we sewed it beforehand, it is like perfect. Now, because this is quite wide, I'm going to do the following. So I could either, and this is completely up to you, if you didn't have this as wide as me, I would just continue with one more round of 9 decreases and then a slip stitch in the next space. Now, I'm going to try something different where I'm going to start with a single crochet stitch first and try and keep these stitches tight, guys, because you've got stuffing in here. It's easy to make them loose, but try and keep them tight. So we've got a single crochet stitch first, followed by an invisible decrease, and I'm going to repeat that 6 times in total. So keep the stitches tight. If you want to work like me, feel free to do so. I'm going to start with single crochet stitch first, followed by an invisible decrease 6 times in total. You will have 12 stitches at the end of this round. But if yours is not as wide as mine, feel free to just continue on with your 9 invisible decreases followed by a slip stitch, and that's it for you guys. All right, I'm going to continue on with my round, which is the single crochet stitch followed by invisible decrease 6 times. I've already done it twice. I've got 4 more times to go. And here we are. This is looking wonderful. So you can see we've got about this size, and so what I will do at this point is make 6 invisible decreases. Now, if 6 is too many, I'll only do 5 and then a slip stitch in the next spot. And when I say too many, it's like depends how wide this is, because remember we have to close it. So if we're finding that there's not many stitch spaces or a gap in between at the end of those 6 invisible decreases, I'll just reduce it to 5. So in the same way, you guys can do the same. Now, if you did your 9 beforehand and you've got a really wide gap, I would consider doing what I've just done, which is make it 2 rounds and not 1. So you'll start off with what I just did, single crochet decrease, and then this next round, which will be your final round with the decreases. All right, so we've either got 5 or 6 invisible decreases to go here, so let's do this. Now, if you wanted to add any more fiber filling, this is your last opportunity to do so. Make sure this is nice and compact and firm, and yeah, and then we'll continue. Let's keep going with these 5 or 6 invisible decreases. So I've just made 1 right there. Here is my second. Keep these stitches nice and tight. Try not to get fiber filling caught up in it as well. You can see my third finger is kind of pushing it down. All right, so that's my second. I'm going to continue on with another either 3 or 4. And I'm up to number 5 as my 5th invisible decrease, and I feel like I can do 1 more. It's not that closed, if that makes sense. So I feel like I can fit in one more without there being any adverse effects. So here's our last one. Keep it nice and tight as well. Always decreases and stitches quite tight. There we go. There's our last one. And I definitely couldn't fit any more. This is small enough now. So you can get away with 6, and if yours is too small, go back to 5. And then in the very next stitch space, you just level it all out with a slip stitch. Just even it all out with a slip stitch, chain 1 to kind of pull that yarn through, and then chop it off where you've got around about a 15 centimeter yarn tail. Pull it clockwise if you're a right-handed crocheter in the direction of where those stitches were going in the spiral. So pull that just a little bit clockwise. And now we can close this gap at the very top. Let's do that now. All right, so we're up to the last part. Weave your yarn through a little bit of a sewing or a tapestry needle, whatever you have there where it's easy to get through the eye of the needle. And then from here, we are going to work our needle through just the front loops. See, I'm in the front loop there. Just the front loops of all the remaining stitches. Do this slowly. 1. Here's my second. Just the front loops, guys. Here's number 3. Number 4. Number 5. And here's my final one. Number 6. Alright, so if you only did 5 invisible decreases, you will have 7 to go through. I did 6, so I only have 6 to go through. And then we're going to pull this in a clockwise manner, nice and slow. You can see it's closing up here. Close, close, close. Make sure it's closed, but you're not pulling too tight because you don't want to risk snapping that, that yarn tail. It's not the end of the world if it happens, but you don't want to risk it. And then you want to work your needle straight back in the center of that. Come out anywhere, doesn't matter where, and give it a little bit of a pull and keep this all nice and straight. Any bumps, kind of push them into the center to hide them. Okay, let's do that. So we're kind of lifting up and pulling a little bit so we can tighten all of that. And then you can squish out this fiber filling to just fill it all in, especially if you had it as wide as mine. I'm going to squish it a little bit, and that looks great. Now we have to weave this in. Remember what I said about these diagonals? We're just going to weave it in the same way. Keep that diagonal across that stitch space. Come through all of that fiber filling to keep it nice and secure. Pull that until it lays nice and seamlessly across the stitch space. You can't even tell, as you can see there. And we're just going to keep doing this. So here's the second one. We'll come maybe over here. Let's do the third one. And now I'm going to work through all that fiber filling, come to the other side again, pull out the yarn, and we'll do one more just to finish this off. If we can get it in there just like that, and it'll come out across the other side, pulling that seamless look. And here we can just cut the excess. We've weaved it in enough times where we don't have to truly worry about that one anymore. And now with these 2 yarn tails, we can also weave these inside the body. So I'll let you guys weave this now inside in the same way that we've done. You can just literally just push it inside, cut excess, and hide it back in. And then we've got the body all done. Guys, you've done the remote console controller at this point, so we are fantastic. This is with velvet yarn. If you did it with cotton yarn, it would look almost exactly the same with your 3mm hook. Alright, so can you see these buttons that we've pinned onto our little console over here? We are going to work them in any color that you want. I've used a cyan, a yellow, a purple, and sort of a lime green as well. So all you need to do is get some 4-ply cotton yarn. Now, if you had your plush yarn here, you want to work with 4-ply cotton yarn. If you use 4-ply cotton yarn over in this body section, what you'd want to do is just have your 4-ply cotton yarn and pull it apart so that you're only working with 2 strands, and we call that 2-ply. So you're just trying to make it smaller. Now for this pattern, you are going to be working here for this type of remote, you're going to be working 7 single crochet stitches in a magic ring. And if you worked with the 2-ply cotton yarn for your 4-ply cotton yarn console, sorry, I know it's getting a bit annoying here with the terminology, you'll just work 6 single crochet stitches in a magic ring, not 7 like I have here. Okay, so I'm going to just show you how to quickly do that. You guys are fairly familiar with it, so I don't think it's going to be too much trouble, but I'll just show you just in case. And we are using a 1.9mm hook for these buttons and for the eyes. So let's start with some 4-ply yellow cotton yarn. And if you had your 2-ply as well, same techniques. So you're going to come in, you're going to make a magic ring, just like that. And simply from here, you are going to work 7 or 6 for 2-ply single crochet stitches. So there's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you'd stop here with the 2-ply yarn for your little console, and here's number 7 for everyone that worked with a bigger plush yarn. So there we go, 7, and then you're just quite literally coming into the very first stitch space of the round. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we're right here. Got into the front loop. Let's see if we can get into the back as well, and there we go. So now we are going to pull the yarn through and make a slip stitch into the loop that was on the hook. Pull this yarn through, and you'll cut yourselves about a good 20cm yarn tail to finish off. You can also cut this yarn tail as well at the back so it doesn't get in the way. And that's all you need to do for the buttons. Now for the eyes, we're going to have the eyes come at the back here. And for your smaller console remote that you worked in 4-ply, if you did, you're just going to work 6 single crochet stitches using 4-ply black cotton yarn. Easy done. For the rest of us, because this is bigger, we are going to work bigger eyes as well. So we're going to start off with 6 in a magic ring and increase it to 12 for the second round. So let's do that together for all the rest of us. So here we go. We're going to start with a magic ring. Magic ring is all done. Work 6 single crochet stitches in here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Now if you had your smaller remote, you'd finish here, you'd pull this, make a slip stitch in the very first stitch space of the round. So let's just show you how to pull that. And we're going to basically do exactly all of that anyway, so we may as well do it together. We're coming into the very first stitch space of the round. Sometimes they can be a little bit of a nuisance to work into. A lot of people who begin amigurumi or just anything in that case always have trouble at first, especially if they're a beginner, to get into this very first stitch space. Make it a little bit looser if you'd like to help you out there. Make a slip stitch. You're finished here if you've done your remote with 4-ply cotton yarn. Otherwise, we're going to continue on for the rest of us. We're just making eyes that seem big enough. So we're going to work increases in every stitch space. So there's my first increase. Here's my second. And then we're going to continue all the way around. Here's my third, 1 and 2. My fourth, 1 and 2. My fifth, you guys are going to be experts at the end of all of this. And last one, number 6, increase. Slip stitch in the very first stitch space of the round and pull that yarn tail, give it a good pull. Leave yourselves with about a 20cm piece at the end so that you can use that for sewing later on. We can cut this at the back here. It's not going to unravel, don't worry about that. And you can see this is like a perfect size for the back. Obviously we need to add a little bit of white in this, but this is going to be a great smiley face at the back here, which is exactly what we want. So make 2 of these in total, and for these obviously you want 4. So that's all you need to do. 2 big black ones, or small if you had the 4-ply cotton yarn for the body. And here 4 of these circles in 4 different colors. 4-ply cotton yarn for here, 6 single crochet stitches in a magic ring, or if you had 4-ply for the body, you will just use 2-ply cotton yarn. And now we are up to the sewing, the best part. Really, it's not that difficult. Don't stress too much about the sewing. Now, I do have a really large needle here. I would recommend something a lot smaller if you had something smaller. When you sew, all that you really need to remember is that you're not coming outside the area of the button with the needle. Because if you do that, you'll be able to see all of those little stitches. You want to come underneath the button slightly and then move to your next space. If you've got a small enough needle, you just work it one space at a time. So I'm going to kind of try and come over here. You can see my needle comes out underneath that button. If I was out here or further out here, you'd be able to see it, and we don't want that. So that's really what you need to be aware of. And then we're coming into the back loops only of the circle all the way around. Okay, so that's what we're doing here. I hope this is helpful to you and gives you a little bit of an idea as well. So see how my needle's coming underneath that button, underneath it. We're not going past it, but you don't want it too underneath, like not obviously not in the center, but like just underneath these stitches. And that's what you want to keep consistent throughout. Now, yes, you will try and go through every single stitch space. So over here, I'm coming under again. Underneath. So you can see, you can't really see my sewing, right? Because we've kept this consistent. We're coming underneath that stitch space. Now this one can also be considered underneath. I just got to do it carefully. And that will work. Always test it out first, and if it's not going to work, you have to go back. Okay, and then we'll come underneath here. Beautiful. Come through this back loop over here. You're going to use the same technique for all of your buttons, guys. All of those little buttons. Coming underneath as well. Whoops, we don't want to get rid of that one. And then coming over here, and we will have only one more to go. So we are looking good. And here's my last area where I will also work through the back loop of this final single crochet stitch. Sorry about the sunlight. It sort of comes in the morning. I can't get rid of it. And then we'll work straight into that section and just come out anywhere. Go through some of that fiber filling, come out the back. We've got a long enough yarn tail to be able to do so. Give it a little bit of a pull, remove that pin. And there we go. There's the first button already on. And it looks wonderful. It's nice and secure there. You're going to do the exact same for the other four. Keep them nicely aligned as best as you can. Work this yarn tail at the end through this same stitch space so we can tie these two yarn tails together, and we'll do the same with these two, perhaps over in another stitch space. So guys, get sewing all of those buttons, and we will have those buttons at the end. Buttons are officially sewn on right here. Now we have those two yarn tails at the end here, and we're just going to, you can see we've worked two in one stitch space. So I'm going to tie them in a double knot, both of them in a double knot. Here's the second one, first knot, second knot coming right up. And then with your pair of cutters, give them a little bit of a cut. And then you can just push in those knots into the body to hide them. Give them a little bit of a push and a tug away. Okay, buttons are officially on. So let us complete the little X shape over here with our gray colored yarn. All right, we're up to the gray section now. So I've cut myself about 1 meter worth. I've entered here and I've come up to the point where I want to start making my vertical line. So this is where I'm going to do. I'm kind of going to keep it in line with this one over here. So it's kind of coming around about that stitch space. And we want to keep this as vertical as possible. So keep a straight line and come down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, about 6 stitch spaces in total. And then work your needle back at the top. So come down, oops, see, got caught in a handle there. So we need to pull this so we've made our straight line. That looks good. And we are just going to weave in and out of this around about 4 times in total. 4 times in total. So here's number 2. This one will be number 3. There's number 3. Give that a little bit of a pull as well. And finally, maybe we just one more. Okay, and then we'll come up the top. Wonderful. All right, so we've got this sort of shape here. Now, if you wanted to secure this even more, what I would suggest doing is to come underneath all of these strands, start from the top and just work and go from side to side across these stitches. You don't need to pull them too hard. You can even start working in a horizontal fashion, but it just helps bring them together. If you're seeing bumps and things, try and work a little bit more on the diagonal. So here's another one. I'm just going to weave it nicely. And if you don't want to do this, absolutely, there's no right or wrong method here. If you wanted to crochet this and sew it, feel free to start doing some chaining and then one row or something, and then just sew it on. Completely up to you how you want to do this. I'm trying to make it as easy but as secure as possible. You can see I'm just weaving all the way here till I reach the bottom, kind of just directing it as I go. And now we're in the bottom, and I'm going to work over here. This is kind of the middle now, and I'm going out to stitch spaces, giving that a little bit of a pull, and then this is going to work across. So you've got 2 stitch spaces here, 1 here, and we might just work up into this point here. So it's almost like 5 stitch spaces that we've worked across. And we'll do the same thing. So we're just going to weave in and out of this, these 2 spaces, a total of 4 times. Remember, that's what we did before. 4 times was the magic number before. So that's 2. Here's number 3. Kind of just direct it with your thumb as you're pulling it through. And here is number 4. Get rid of that yarn tail. And then in the same way, we are going to weave underneath all of these in a sort of diagonal motion. Not pulling too tightly because you don't want to have it all compressed. But you do want it in that sort of diagonal motion. Oops, we got a knot here, so we got to be careful of that. Done, thank goodness. And we'll continue on, just wrapping around. Have it a little bit more on the diagonal rather than straight across if you can as well. And then as you get to the intersection, you want to go through underneath all of it. Absolutely all of it. Keep that nice and secure together. You might want to do that once more, going through all of it. You can see how I'm working in that diagonal. Okay, and as I come across here now, I'm going to continue as I was. Just like that. And then come across here, underneath these ones. Oops, didn't want to push that too tight. And maybe just one more. I reckon we can get in one more. Boom. All right, work back here. Just want to make sure that looks good. And then we're going to find that other yarn tail where we inserted into at the beginning. Come there. There's our little cross. Grab these 2 yarn tail ends, tie them in a double knot. It's nothing you haven't seen before. 1, and here's the second. You guys are doing fantastic. Okay, pull a little bit harder on that second knot of the double knot, and then give it a little bit of a cut. Remove your excess from your needle and just pull that in. Pull that inside the body to hide it away. There we go. There's our beautiful little cross for our little Game Boy thing. All right, so that's the front done. This is looking excellent. So soft as well. Oh, this is just gorgeous. let us complete the back with our smiley face. Let's do that now. We are pinning on the eyes at this point. So pinning on the eyes, and in the same way that you sewed these ones through the back loops and keeping the needle underneath the eye so you don't see the stitches as you're sewing, you're going to sew these too. So I'm not going to show you how to do that because we have done it already, but we'll come back at the end of these. Pin it first just so you can get the placement right. There's no absolute way it needs to be pinned, like you could have your eyes further up, but I've kind of kept mine in the center of my console or remote, and then I can see where I'm going to start making a face over here and adding some plush for the cheeks. So get to the sewing of the eyes first. Eyes are officially sewn on here, and we've got those 2 yarn tails at the back. Tie them in a double knot, cut them, hide them. That's all. So tie, double knot, cut, and hide. We're getting that technique down pat now. You can also push them to hide them and pull them from underneath to hide them as well. So a couple of different ways that you can do that there. Just try and get rid of the blackness that you can see with the yarn. Alright, so those are the eyes. Now we do need to add some whites sections for the eyes just to make them pop, so let's do that. So here I've done one eye here. We've got a little bit of those highlights. We're going to keep those highlights in the same direction, and I will show you how to do it on the other eye in the exact same way. So we're going to come out through the center of our eye, and just be careful, hold it together as you do that because you don't want this popping off, so just be very careful. And then we're going to have it come in this sort of diagonal motion, keep it consistent. And you will not come down here, but you're sort of coming across here. You can see I'm kind of in that space there and coming back to the center because we're going to weave through this another time. So here's one beautiful diagonal, and we'll do it again. Here's the second one, same spot, and then we're going to come further out towards, keep in line with that diagonal and come out at the bottom. So just over here. So there's 2. So the top portion is done, and then all you want to do, I could have even come out a little bit more this way, but it's okay. In fact, I just want to be careful. I might come over here instead. There we go. And then I'm going to work, get rid of that fluff if you can. It's not fun to have the fluff. And then we're just going to work a little bit of a highlight down here, and I'm just going to work this straight in. Come up anywhere, it doesn't matter because we're going to work that through later. And there we go, there's the second eye. I could have made it a little bit longer just to match this one, but this is adorable. Like, you have to admit that looks adorable with those little highlights. Now, if you had smaller eyes for the smaller console, only do just this first highlight and use obviously a smaller needle and only 1 ply. 1 or 2 ply, I would suggest 1 ply cotton yarn. So you just pull this apart and give yourselves 1 strand. Alright, I need to weave this tail now to this portion over here so we can tie these together in a double knot, cut, and finish it off. I'm not going to show you this one because we have done it a few times. Alright. And everything from here is super smooth sailing. So we just have our plush right now. So we're going to start coming underneath the eye, but towards our right side for this one, towards the left for this side. And we're just going to come here, leave a bit of a yarn tail, and perhaps come across like 3 stitch spaces and weave in and out of those 2 stitch spaces. Let's see, maybe like 3 times. Here's the second time. Always try and get rid of that fluff as well. You can do that at the end, by the way. It doesn't have to be step by step, even though I'm kind of doing that. All right, this is the 3rd time, and then I'm just going to work it directly to where this eye is, kind of in the same direction. Pull that, pull, 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 pull. Come over here and we'll do the exact same thing. Cross 3 stitch spaces, 3 to 4. Once. Here's the second time. And number 3. Then I'll work that yarn all the way to where I began. And if you can't reach, go somewhere else. That's so cute. So we'll come over here and then go back in that same stitch space, takes it away from here, and then you can tie these in a double knot, cut and hide. And finally, we just need a little bit of a smile. So I reckon coming from here, down here, and across there in this U/V shape. This shouldn't be too difficult for us, but we'll take it step by step nonetheless. So we're coming over here, right in between these eyes. So here's the base of the eyes. We're coming right at the base of the eyes, but then also a little bit further below. So like it's almost like one round below the eyes. And then how small, how large do we want this? Let's keep it small. I put my yarn tail or my needle right in the middle of this smile because it allows me to wrap around it and then finish off like that. And I'm not going to pull too tightly. There we go. And there we go. That's a beautiful smile. If I pulled really tight, it forms a V. So I wouldn't pull too tight just to keep that U. And if you do have a V, you can kind of come over here, wrap around it, come over here, wrap around as well, just to keep it secure, nice in place. Okay, and last but not least, as you know, let's work our yarn tails in the same stitch space. Tie them, cut them, hide them. Easy done. Alright, so when it comes to the yarn tail, now you can add a keychain if you'd like to as well. I'm going to add a yarn tail. I'm going to come to, so here's our little closed gap section. I'm going to come, not in the center there because I don't want to kind of ruin that, but I'm coming one sort of round above, and then I'm working in the middle and up the top here. And in fact, it depends where you want the front portion to be. So for example, if you want this to be the front, then I would do the exact same thing and work right here. Okay, so yes, ideally you'd kind of want to work in the center, and if you can, I would do it. You're just getting through like a little bit of a stitch space. Now I would also recommend using cotton yarn, not the plush yarn, for this. When you're doing your little yarn chains. So get some cotton yarn, 1.9mm hook, not your 3mm hook, and then you'll just weave that yarn through and chain. I would suggest chaining about 80 or 85. Actually, I've gone back and decided to only make 80 chains. Now I'm just going to pull this a little bit loose, and I'm going to give that a pull as well. Make this straight and aligned. So I'm pulling, just aligning this properly so we don't have tangles and everything, because as it comes back down, it wants to be straight, remember? And then go and work your hook straight back into that section once you've worked out that it's now straight. And yes, the rest can be tangled, that's fine, just as long as your yarn chain is not tangled. And then I'm going to work straight back in this section here and come out where we began. So we grab, sorry if I'm out of the frame, I shouldn't be. So I'm going to grab this. So I've kind of worked in here, and I'm going to grab this thread, pull it up, and it needs to work a slip stitch into the loop on my hook. And then we're going to pull, I keep coming out of frame, sorry. I'm going to pull this, leave myself a bit of a yarn tail. So now we should have 2 yarn tails over here, and we're going to tie these together. Just like that. You can even tie them together in a double knot to really secure it in place, and it should be secure. Now from here, you want to work back where that knot is, work back inside, and then come out somewhere else. Ideally, you want to go through a little bit of the fiber filling to keep it even more secured. And you're going to weave both of these through. So here's the first. Boom, pop out. And then we're going to do the exact same for the second and have it come out also in that same stitch space. So here is this piece of thread. Hopefully we can weave it through in one go. This is like the part I have the trouble in the most. There we go. Pull that through as well. That secures this one over here, and then you can even tie this also in another double knot to secure it even more. Now some people will then weave this all the way into the body to hide it. I'm usually a cutter. and then I push it in just like that. And there we go. There is our little yarn chain. So if you wanted to put this onto something, like say for instance you had a hook or whatnot, it kind of comes through all of this or around it, and then it wraps around, and then you pull it like that, and that's your yarn chain. Yarn chains are way well, I wouldn't say way better, but they are a little bit more what's the word, like they don't rust or anything as some keychains may do. So it just keeps it all a bit more firm, sturdy, and you can wash it without hesitation. All right, and guys, there you go. We've just finished our beautiful console remote, little game controller over here. It's not really the console is the big thing, right? Not the remote. I don't know what I'm talking about, but in any case, I hope you enjoyed this. I saw lots of people doing something like this, and I wanted to do something similar, so I just created my own pattern. But this time I didn't have the face come here. I wanted my own face to be at the back, so the back was filled with something as well, and this is just kept as your normal game controller. It's easy to do in both cotton yarn and your plush yarn. You just you've kind of got some cotton yarn aspects of it as well for all of these smaller details, but then the plush just makes it so nice feeling and soft and fluffy, and yeah, it's just perfect. But if you want more keychain, well, this is a keychain, but if you wanted more of like a smaller keychain, I recommend doing it in cotton yarn. It just works out smaller anyway. Anyways, guys, thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. Lots of tutorials on this channel, and I try to be a little bit more entertaining on the shorts videos, so hope you enjoy, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks, guys. Bye.